Good morning, friends. Happy Thursday. Happy payday. Woo woo. Hope you all had a wonderful Wednesday. I had an okay day. It's going to be a busy day at work today. I have a lot to do. It's been a busy week. All right, let's jump right in. September 22nd, dedication of Jerusalem's wall, Nehemiah 12:27 through 43. Well, thank you, Tracy. All right, 445 BC. For the dedication of the new wall of Jerusalem, the Levites throughout the land were asked to come to Jerusalem to assist in the ceremonies. They were to take part in the joyous occasion with their songs of thanksgiving and with the music of cymbals, harps, and lyres. The singers were brought together from the region around Jerusalem and from the villages of the Netophathites. They also came from Beth Gilgal and the rural areas near Geba and Asmaveth, for the singers had built their own settlements around Jerusalem. The priests and Levites had purified themselves. Then they purified the people, the gates, and the wall. I led the leaders of Judah to the top of the wall and organized 2 large choirs to give thanks. One of the choirs proceeded southward along the top of the wall of the Dung Gate. Hoshea and half the leaders of Judah followed them, along with Azariah, Ezra, Meshullam, Judah, Benjamin, Shemaiah, and Jeremiah. Then came some of the priests who played. I could put my glasses on. Then came some of the priests who played trumpets, including Zechariah, son of Jonathan, son of Shemaiah, son of Mattaniah, son of Micah. I can't see this morning. Son of Zakur, a descendant of Asaph. And Zechariah's colleagues were Shemaiah, Azarel, Milalai, Gilalai, Mai, Nathanael, Judah, and Hanani. They used the musical instruments prescribed by David, the man of God. Ezra, the scribe, led this procession. At the fountain gate, they went straight up the steps on the ascent to the city wall toward the city of David. They passed the house of David and then proceeded to the water gate on the east. The second choir, giving thanks, went northward, around the other way to meet them. I followed them, together with the other half of the people, along with the top wall past the tower of the ovens to the broad wall, then past the Ephraim gate to the old city gate, past the fish gate and the tower of Hananel, and on the top of the tower of the 100. Then we continued to the sheep gate and stopped at the guard gate. The 2 choirs that were giving thanks then proceeded to the temple of God, where they took their places. So did I, together with the group leaders who were with me. When we then, together with the trumpeted playing priests, Eliakim, Messiah, Miniamim, Micaiah, Elionai, Zechariah, and Hananiah, and the singers, Messiah, Shemaiah, Eleazar, Uzi, Jehohanan, Melchijah, Elam, and Ezer. They played and sang loudly under the direction of Jezariah, the choir director. Many sacrifices were offered on that joyous day, for God had given the people cause for great joy. The women and children also participated in the celebration, and the joy of the people of Jerusalem could be heard far away. Provisions for the temple worship, Nehemiah 12:44 through 13:3. On that day, men were appointed to be in charge of the storerooms for the offerings, and the first part of the harvest, and the tithes. They were responsible to collect from the fields outside the towns the portions required by the law for the priests and Levites. For all the people of Judah took joy in the priests and Levites and their work. They performed the services of God and the services of purification commanded by David and his son Solomon, and so did the singers and gatekeepers. The customs of having choir directors to lead the choir in hymns of praise and thanksgiving to God began long ago in the days of David and Asaph. So now, in the days of Zerubbabel and of Nehemiah, all Israel brought a daily supply of food for the singers, the gatekeepers, and the Levites. The Levites, in turn, gave the portion of whatever they received to the priests, the descendants of Aaron. On that same day, as the book of Moses was being read to the people, the passage was found that said no Ammonite or Moabite should ever be permitted to enter the assembly of God, for they had not provided the Israelites with food and water in the wilderness. Instead, they hired Balaam to curse them, though our God turned the curse into a blessing. When this passage of the law was read, all those of foreign descent were immediately excluded from the assembly. Nehemiah left Jerusalem in 433 BC and returned to his post in Susa as King Artaxerxes' cupbearer. Nehemiah's absence from Jerusalem, Nehemiah 13, 4-6. Before this had happened, Eliashib the priest, who had been appointed as supervisor of the storerooms of the temple of our God, and who was also a relative of Tobiah, had converted a large storage room and placed it in Tobiah's disposal. The room had previously been used for storing grain offerings, the frankincense, various articles for the temple, and the tithes of grain, new wine, and olive oil, all of which were prescribed for the Levites, the singers, and the gatekeepers, as well as the offerings for the priest. I was not in Jerusalem at that time, for I had returned to King Artaxerxes of Babylon in the 32nd year of his reign, though I later asked his permission to return. Nehemiah 5:14-19. For the entire 12 years that I was governor of Judah, for the 20th year to the 32nd year of the reign of King Artaxerxes, neither I nor my officials drew on our official food allowance. The former governors, in contrast, had laid heavy burdens on the people, demanding a daily ration of food and wine, besides 40 pieces of silver. Even their assistants took advantage of the people, but because I feared God, I did not act that way. I also devoted myself to working on the wall and refused to acquire any land, and I required all my servants to spend time working on the wall. I asked for nothing, even though I regularly fed 150 Jewish officials at my table, besides all the visitors from the other lands. The provisions I paid for each day included 1 ox, 6 sheep, choice sheep or goats, and a large number of poultry, and every 10 days we needed a large supply of all kinds of wine. Yet I refused to claim the governor's food allowance because the people already carried the heavy burden. Remember, O my God, all that I have done for these people, and bless me for it. Nehemiah's return to Jerusalem, Nehemiah 13, 7-31, after 433 BC. When I arrived back in Jerusalem, I learned about Eliashib's evil deeds in providing Tobiah with a room in the courtyards of the temple of God. I became very upset and threw all of Tobiah's belongings out of the room. Then I demanded that the rooms be purified, and I brought back the articles for God's temple, the grain offerings, and the frankincense. I also discovered that the Levites had not been given their prescribed portions of food, so they and the singers who were to conduct the worship services had all returned to work their fields. I immediately confronted the leaders and demanded, "Why has the temple of God been neglected?" Then I called all the Levites back again and restored them to their proper duties. And once more, all the people of Judah began bringing their tithes of grain, new wine, olive oil to the temple storerooms. I assigned supervisors for the storerooms, Shelemiah the priest, Zadok the scribe, and Pedaiah, one of the Levites. And I appointed Hanan, son of Zachar, and grandson of Mattaniah, as their assistant. These men had an excellent reputation, and it was their job to make honest distributions to their fellow Levites. Remember this good deed, O my God, and do not forget all that I have faithfully done for the temple of my God and its services. In those days I saw the men of Judah treading out their winepress on the Sabbath. They were also bringing in grain, loading it on donkeys, and bringing their wines, grapes, figs, and all sorts of produce to Jerusalem to sell on the Sabbath. So I rebuked them for selling their produce on that day. Some men of Tyre who lived in Jerusalem were bringing in fish and all kinds of merchandise. They were selling it on the Sabbath to the people of Judah, and in Jerusalem at that. So I confronted the nobles of Judah. "Why are you profaning the Sabbath in this evil way?" I asked. "Wasn't it just this sort of thing that your ancestors did that caused our God to bring all this trouble upon us and our city? Now you are bringing even more wrath upon Israel by permitting the Sabbath to be desecrated in this way." Then I commanded that the gates of Jerusalem should be shut as darkness fell every Friday evening, not to be opened until the Sabbath ended. I sent some of my servants to guard the gates so that no merchandise could be brought in on the Sabbath day. The merchants and tradesmen with the variety of wares camped outside Jerusalem once or twice, but I spoke sharply to them and said, "What are you doing out here camping around the wall? If you do this again, I will arrest you." And that was the last time they came out on the Sabbath. Then I commanded the Levites to purify themselves and to guard the gates in order to preserve the holiness of the Sabbath. Remember this good deed also, O my God. Have compassion on me according to your great unfailing love. About the same time, I realized that some of the men of Judah had married women from Ashdod, Ammon, and Moab. Furthermore, half their children spoke the language of Ashdod, or some of the other people, and could not speak the language of Judah at all. So I confronted them and called down curses on them. I beat some of them and pulled out their hair. I made them swear in the name of God that they would not let their children intermarry with the pagan people of the land. Wasn't this exactly what led King Solomon of Israel into sin? I demanded there was no king from any nation who could compare to him, and God loved him and made him king over all of Israel. But even he was led into sin by his foreign wives. How could you even think of committing this sinful deed and acting unfaithfully towards God by marrying foreign women? One of the sons of Joiada, son of Eliashib the high priest, had married a daughter of Sanballat the Horonite, so I banished him from my presence. Harsh. Remember them, O my God, for they have defiled the priesthood and the solemn vows of the priests and Levites. So I purged out everything foreign and assigned tasks to the priests and Levites, making certain that each knew his work. I also made sure that the supply of wood for the altar and the first portions of the harvest were brought out at the proper times. Remember this in my favor, O my God. Okay, here's a note that says Malachi's ministry may have occurred during the time of Nehemiah's absence from Jerusalem, beginning in 433 BC. Ouch. Oh. The prophecy of Malachi 1:1, which was 433 to 430 BC. This is the message that the Lord gave to Israel through the prophet Malachi. The Lord's love for Israel. Malachi 1:2 through 5. I have always loved you, says the Lord, but you retort, really? How have you loved us? And the Lord replies, this is how I showed my love for you. I loved your ancestor Jacob, but I rejected his brother Esau and devastated his hill country. I turned Esau's inheritance into a desert for jackals. Esau's descendants in Edom may say, we have been shattered, but we will rebuild the ruins. But the Lord of Heaven's armies replied, they may try to rebuild, but I will demolish them again. Their country will be known as the land of wickedness, and their people will be called the people with whom the Lord is forever angry. When you see the destruction for yourselves, you will say, truly, the Lord's greatness reaches far beyond Israel's borders. Unworthy sacrifices, Malachi 1:6 through 14. The Lord of Heaven's armies says to the priests, a son honors his father, and a servant respects his master. If I am your father and your master, where are the honor and respect I deserve? You have shown contempt for my name. But you ask, how have we ever shown contempt for your name? You have shown contempt by offering defiled sacrifices on my altar. Then you ask, how have we defiled the sacrifices? You defile them by saying the altar of the Lord deserves no respect. When you give blind animals as sacrifices, isn't that wrong? And isn't it wrong to offer animals that are crippled and diseased? Try giving gifts like that to your governor and see how pleased he is, says the Lord of Heaven's armies. Go ahead, beg God to be merciful on you. But when you bring that kind of offering, why should he show you any favor at all? Asks the Lord of Heaven's armies. How I wish one of you would shut the temple doors so that these worthless sacrifices could not be offered. I am not pleased with you, says the Lord of Heaven's armies, and I will not accept your offerings. But my name is honored by people of other nations from morning until night. All around the world they offer sweet incense and pure offerings in honor of my name. For my name is great among the nations, says the Lord of Heaven's armies. But you dishonor my name with your actions. By bringing contemptible food, you are saying it's right to defile the Lord's table. You say it's too hard to serve the Lord, and you turn up your noses at my commands, says the Lord of Heaven's armies. Think of it. Animals that are stolen and crippled and sick are being presented as offerings. Should I accept from you such offerings as these? Asks the Lord. Cursed is the cheat who promises to give a fine ram from his flock, but then sacrifices a defective one to the Lord. For I am a great king, says the Lord of Heaven's armies, and my name is feared among the nations. A warning for the priests, Malachi 2:1 through 9. Listen, you priests, this command is for you. Listen to me and make up your minds to honor my name, says the Lord of Heaven's armies, or I will bring a terrible curse against you. I will curse even the blessings you receive. Indeed, I have already cursed them, because you have not taken my warning to heart. I will punish your descendants and splatter your faces with the manure from your festival sacrifices, and I will throw you in the manure pile. Then, at last, you will know that it is I who sent this warning, so that my covenant with the Levites can continue, says the Lord of Heaven's armies. The purpose of my covenant with the Levites was to bring life and peace, and that is what I gave them. Excuse me. This required reverence from them. This required reverence from them, and they greatly revered me and stood in awe of my name. They passed on to the people the truth of the instructions they received from me. They did not lie or cheat. They walked with me, living good and righteous lives, and they turned many from the lives of sin. The words of a priest's lips should preserve knowledge of God, and people should go to him for instruction, for the priest is the messenger of the Lord of Heaven's armies. But you priests have left God's paths. Your instructions have caused many to stumble into sin. You have corrupted the covenant I have made with the Levites, says the Lord of Heaven's armies. So I have made you despised and humiliated in the eyes of all the people. For you have not obeyed me, but have shown favoritism in the way you carry out my instructions. My goodness. My eyes this morning. Some days it's a struggle for me, you guys. My eyes were like, I'm trying really hard. I'm super drowsy this morning. Let me just drink a few more sips. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. I didn't sleep long enough. KJ's busy. All right. My eyes are like, I could close them right now in this chair and be out like a light. I'll try not to do that live because that would be slightly embarrassing. All right, we are in Breaking Free from Body Shame. We are on page 26 of chapter 2, about halfway down on page 26. Now, here's the good news. I think there is one potentially positive reason we haven't seen the church embrace the idea of body positivity. The concept of body positivity doesn't leave much room for people to lament the pain they experience in their bodies. Just love your body is hard for those with injuries, chronic illness, and disabilities that hinder everyday living. The gospel at its core makes room for lamenting and expressing frustration with the brokenness of the world we live in. The gospel tells us we groan and are burdened in these tents, and we long for heaven and our resurrected bodies. 2 Corinthians 5, 1-5. You might say that in the Western Church we see something similar to body neutrality, but I'd say it could be more accurately referred to as body ignorance. When we overlook the negative ways people feel and use their bodies, we avoid some sticky situations and some potentially hard conversations. If we pretend everything is fine, that this glaring issue isn't facing us, maybe it will go away. The problem with body ignorance is that messages about our bodies can still be received and agreed with, and if we don't pay close attention to those messages, they will take root in our lives, whether we are conscious of them or not. For better or for worse, without a strong foundation of truth and freedom, the lies of the enemy still seep into our systematic beliefs about who we are, what we're here for, and what makes us good. Rather than ignoring our bodies and their significance, I'd rather take this question straight to God. What does He think about our bodies? How would He have us to love and treat them? What will happen to our bodies when we die? It's easy for us to act as though the soul is all that matters, like our bodies are merely vessels. But if we're made in the image of God and He crafted us with intention and artistic excellence, aren't our bodies worth attention? And if so many women, and I believe men, are hurting as we hunger to understand the worth of our bodies, shouldn't we be trying to understand the truth of God rather than writing off what feels too complex to grasp? There's another inherent danger in treating our bodies as though they are subpar compared to our souls. A friend once relayed a story about how her youth pastor referred to his body as just an earth suit. This dismissal created a vacuum that allowed her to believe it was permissible to treat her body without care, even starving it and abusing it. If it was only an earth suit, if it really didn't matter how she treated it, wasn't she free to manipulate it, even at the cost of her own health? If the body itself doesn't matter, then how can what we do in our bodies matter? We have so much work to do in the church pertaining to viewing our bodies as good. We need a theology that recognizes, responds to, and agrees with the truth of how God made us. We need space for women, specifically to confess and bring light to this area that is so dark for so many of us, so we can begin fighting shame with fervent truth. And we need instructions about what it looks like to love our bodies, because God made them, not worshiping them or idolizing them, but worshiping Him with them. I thank God genuinely for the healing and freedom the body positivity and body neutrality movements have given those of us who have been exposed to them. But for the followers of Jesus who ascribe to His truth, I think there's another frontier to explore. Body positivity leaves us wanting more in light of the news that eternity is the be-all and end-all for us, and that for now we are living in the midst of a fallen existence. We can speak positive words towards our bodies while acknowledging they're broken, that they're subject to the effects of a world that is not God's best-case scenario. What's more, it's not our bodies that we worship and proclaim as perfect as much as it is the God who made our bodies. It's our insistence on His power, presence, and glory that leads me to believe my body is good. The statement that I love my body, that I feel positively about it, has so much more impact because it's backed up by the belief that the Creator of the universe made it with intention and creativity. I love that. I love the sentence here. It's our insistence on His power, presence, and glory that leads me to believe that my body is good. It's not arrogance. It's not standing in the mirror going, I'm good. Look at me. I'm fine. It's our insistence that He created it, and therefore it must be good. I like that. I like it. All right. Thanks for joining me. I'm freezing. I was roasting, so I opened the door, and now I'm freezing. Brr. It's cold in Maine this morning, y'all. It's 58. Faith, I think that's it. It's a little dreary here today. It's cloudy, and my eyes are like, if I had been listening to somebody read devotions and was laying in my bed, I'd have been, that would have been me. Thank you for joining me this morning for devotions. I love all of you. I am going to make breakfast this morning. Oh, it just started raining. Told you it was dreary. I spoke dreary and the rain started coming down. I am going to make breakfast. I'm going to have a shake this morning. I'm going to have I don't know if this is a thing. There may be recipes out there for this, but I was sitting on the couch last night doing what KJs do when they're on the couch, stuff on the computer. And I got to thinking, I need to know what I'm going to have for breakfast tomorrow so I don't have to sit there and think, what did I have for breakfast? And I knew I needed a shake. And so I decided to make a peanut butter and pumpkin shake. Doesn't that sound good? I was like, I bet peanut butter and pumpkin would go good together. I'm going to make a peanut butter and pumpkin shake for breakfast. Is that a thing? I need to go look it up. Maybe it's already a thing. But I'm going to make peanut butter and pumpkin shake this morning for breakfast because for some reason that sounds really good to me. Sounds like I'm not making apple. Tracy wants me to die. She wants me to die. So she keeps telling me to make apple. I'll make Zapple, Tracy. All right, you guys. I love you all. I'll see you in just a few minutes for breakfast. I can't find the off button. Bye, you guys.